All right, hey everybody, welcome back once again to the channel. This is Rob for Smirking Gun Reviews. One more video for the end of the night. I decided to do another Americans Season 6 episode, which is Episode 2, Tchaikovsky. So full spoilers ahead if you've not seen the episode. Before I get started, I just want to mention what I didn't talk about last episode was Kerry Russell. I kind of touched on it, but I mean, I swear, if you had told me back when Felicity was out that I'd be watching, I didn't watch that show. I knew of it, but it was like, ooh. But if you had told me that all these years later I would be riveted by a Kerry Russell performance, I'd call you I'd call you a liar. But so much of this show is just carried by her. He's no slouch either. Matthew Rice is no slouch either. But I'm telling you, man, Kerry Russell is a revelation on this show. Um, just the range of somebody that you just don't expect. Not that I haven't been surprised by other people in the past. Like, who would have thought Michelle Williams from Dawson's Creek would actually be any good? So. So anyway, let's jump into this. Now, this is a complicated episode, and some of it I don't understand because I don't know politics. Not really politics, but bureaucracy of politics and things like that. So what we have here, some of this is Stan, the FBI guy, is trying to manage a. He's not like a. I guess he's maybe a defector, but he's a Russian with uh, he's kind of like a diplomat, and he has these things that he is giving information to the Americans, and he's got this relationship that is falling apart, and between her and him, they keep kind of juggling with Stan, like, oh, she just threw me out of the house, and she's complaining about his drinking, and like they're not getting along, and they need him to continue to do his work, but if this relationship starts to fall apart, it could damage the work that they're trying to do. And she could be potentially a leak for information. Now, that being said, they do go on this little operation with the great use of the talking heads again. They use the talking heads a lot on this show, where this guy has to go take his pouch that he's giving the information to the Americans, and he's in the bathroom of like an airport terminal or something like that. And the guy in the next stall has this like X-ray camera sitting on like like above like where the toilet paper is, and he's got like a clicker. He's got his pants out. He's got all this equipment in this toilet stall, and he's having to like wait for the guy, the Russian guy, to like carefully and quietly, without creating any noise, like hang up this bag with little holes that they've already drilled in with pens. He's got to hang it right, and so that he can take the camera picture through the doors and through the bag, and without anybody knowing what they're doing. It's a great use of music. It's a great use of tension. It's just a cool scene of spy, what real spy stuff is like, and what they're willing to do to get the job done. It's just fucking fascinating. And then we get the bit of here with Elizabeth meeting this guy in the library who works at I think he works in the State Department, and he believes she works in the State Department. She's got a cover that supposedly works in the State Department. I don't know what he actually does. And how she's trying to get information from him. She wants to meet for lunch, but he keeps saying, we can only do it in the like State Department lunchroom because I have meetings all week. And this whole thing about the meetings is there's this big summit coming. The history was kind of made, I think, back in those days because of this, with Gorbachev and Reagan and the nuclear arms, race, and people trying to cut the arms race, like basically trying to get the end of communism is kind of creeping up. I was like 12 when this shit was going on. My parents were getting a divorce back in '87, so it's like I don't really remember too much from this era, but again, I was 12. So she has to figure out how she's going to get into the State Department, lunchroom. She is a civilian. She is a Russian spy. On top of that, how is she supposed to get in there? And I guess it's a little easy, maybe a little too easy. But I mean, signs up for the State Department tour, and then she's got a disguise. She quietly slips away into the bathroom where she changes disguises, and then you see her disappear. And there's no other explanation of how she gets to the State Department lunchroom. But you're supposed to just kind of go, okay. But when she gets there and she starts having this meeting with the guy. There is like a commotion. There's like guys on their radio saying that they're missing somebody from the tour. So she has to convince the guy that she's with to go outside. And, she just puts on the charm, gets the guy to, come on, I'll get you, to where, and then this is where you find out that the people running, on the American side some of them think that Reagan's going senile. And this is big news for their handler, played by Margot Martindale, who, like, what do you do if Reagan's going senile? The guys that are under him are, like, to them, worse. And that's, to them, saying quite a bit. There's also this general that they're trying to blackmail into giving them a lithium-powered, like, it's supposed to super quickly detect a nuclear explosion. Now, I think I don't know why you'd need something like that. I feel like if there was a nuclear explosion nearby, you wouldn't have time. You'd know it pretty quickly, wouldn't you? I don't know. I mean, unless you needed it for being far away from one and knowing it still happened. I guess that's maybe what it's for. I just don't really understand the purpose of that thing. Hey, is there a nuclear bomb going off here? Go get the... You're dead. You should... I don't know. So, they try to blackmail this guy. And before we get to that, she tells him where to meet him. We get some stuff with Philip. Kind of, his stuff isn't, I don't know what they're trying to say with this part of the story, but one of his clients from the travel agency drops him after 15 years, and it's one of his employees' fault. And I don't know if it's like he's blaming it on the employee, but he feels guilty and he doesn't know how that's happened. And I don't know if this is kind of just building back towards how his mind is actually, worried about Elizabeth, and he should be, with what they were asking him to do last episode. So there's just a little bit there, and I'm not quite sure where that fits in, but we'll find out more. I'm sure. So Elizabeth goes to meet with this guy in the park, and he's talking about how last time they dealt with each other, somebody died, and he's killed a bunch of people in Korea, and but this moment that he was working with them, thinking he was doing the right thing, is the thing he remembers when somebody died in front of him. So he's not happy having to meet her there. And so she tells him, like, look, you better come to a decision, or we're going to ruin your life. Like, we're going to expose you, your career's going to be over, you're going to jail, we're going to fuck you over. Now, I guess you should see this coming, I guess, but Paige, before we get to the end of this, Paige and Elizabeth have this conversation on the street that's very interesting, because we know, if you've seen the series, Kerry Russell and Philip's character, or Matthew Rice's Philip, they have both been in several, probably many compromising positions where they've had to sleep with people that weren't each other to get information. And when Paige says, she was reading in this book for research that a lot of, people in their business have had to use sex to get the things that they want. And Elizabeth just straight up lies, like, right to her face, like, no, that never happens. And, I'm like shaking my own head, like, come on, man, you cannot just completely lie to her like that. And I think she even realizes, like, okay, she's not a dummy. I've got to come up with something. And she does. She kind of pulls out of her ass, like, well, there are relationships here. Things happen. Lines are crossed. I think it just comes down to the fact that she doesn't want to tell her, want her daughter to feel differently because she's banged like a whole bunch of dudes to get information that weren't her dad. You know, I think that it just comes down to a very simple mother daughter thing that she just doesn't want her daughter to see her as some slut. Uh, it's, like if you understand what they're doing, it doesn't make it that. It's just, the fact that they're a family of spies now is just kind of bizarre. So anyway, it's a very interesting little conversation. Like poor Paige is probably just terrified that her mother was going to say, yeah, you're going to have to spread your legs for some fat slob from who knows where, to get some stupid little information. You know, I don't think she wanted to have that conversation either. But so we get back to the final confrontation here. This guy is got to have the thing that they want. They go out, to the little park, little secluded area again. And this time, though, the guy has a gun, and he points it at her, and she's trying to get him to back off, like I'm sorry, and it's actually pretty serious, where she's on her knees. Now, here's the thing with Carrie Russell is, okay, you're waiting for that, like somebody else to show up and like take him out or whatever. But see, Carrie Russell's character doesn't need that. I mean, even at her lowest, where she's on the ground begging for her life, as soon as she started talking about, I have children, I'm a mother, I was like, oh my God, she's waiting for her moment. And she does. And she lunges at this guy. And from on her knees, and this guy's tall, like got the high ground on her as far as height goes, and she takes him down. They're wrestling for the gun, and then just like crazily, because this show just as well just does not fit. Oh my God! So she takes the gun, and it's like she's right here, like right here. Here's his head, here's her head, right here, and she gets the gun just far enough where her head is like right here when the gun goes off and his head explodes and the brains go all over her face and in her hair, and they show like the chunks of this guy's face like basically all over her face. Poor Paige is running up like expecting, not knowing what to expect. She certainly didn't expect to see her mother covered in some guy's brains. But it's just, I mean, it's gory, man. And she's just like, get the fuck out of here, like, and that's the end of the episode. This show, like, you can sometimes say it's complicated and maybe a little dull, but when it wants to hit you, it hits you right in the face. So I can't wait to do another episode of this tomorrow at some point. Again, another fantastic episode of the final season going on. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. This is a great show. I do highly recommend watching all of the seasons. So yeah, that's about it. This is Rob for Smirking Gun Reviews saying good night for sure tonight. It is 10:49 in the PM here on a Wednesday, and it is finally time for me to stop. Stop. Enjoy the rest of my day off. And I don't know. See you later. Have a good one. Bye.